Good evening, everyone. It's a delight to see so many people here about to listen to an introduction to Kabbala Pathworking with me, and I'm Sandy Anastasi. So welcome. I'm going to ask that you hold your questions. I'm going to go through the information to present the introduction, and then I'm going to open us up to questions. At that point, you'll be able to ask me whatever you like about the Kabbala and Kabbala Pathworking. And let's see, Lisa, I am looking for you. Oh, here you are. Couldn't find you. Thank you. Lisa is my assistant, and she is going to be recording this meeting behind me, which is going to be great. So once again, welcome to an introduction to Kabbala Pathworking with me. I'm going to be your guide on this journey. And what we're doing this evening is just having an overview, a little bit about what the Kabbala is, a little bit about what pathworking is, a little bit about what my upcoming Kabbala Pathworking class is all about, how you can join it, where you can go to get more information about it, and so forth. And of course, there's going to be a Q&A when I'm at the end of this little presentation. Now, if you want to go deeper into this, I'm also going to give you some sources where you can go and find out more. And there's at the end going to be a link that you can click on or copy out that you're going to be able to click on and actually get a sample path to listen to and a deeper version of this presentation that I'm doing here this evening. So there's a lot of material, a lot of information you're going to get this evening. I'm going to throw it at you, and you can have fun with it. First of all, people always say to me, Sandy, what is the Kabbalah? I've always heard that the Kabbalah is Judaism. It's out of Judaism. And sometimes people say, well, isn't the Kabbalah the Torah? Isn't the Kabbalah what all Jews study? And the answer, I've got to tell you, to all those things is a walloping great big no. Nobody truly knows exactly where the Kabbalah came from. We know that the Jews came out of Egypt with it or a version of it. It's extremely old. It is not the Torah. The Torah is like the Christian Bible, or like a rule book for following the rules or the tenets of a religion. The Kabbalah talks about how energy becomes matter. It talks about heaven and earth if you do it in the Judaic terms, in a spiritual sense. If you do it in pure physics, which is how I learned it, physics and math, it's literally the formula for evolution. And the Jews came out of Egypt many, many, many thousands of years ago and trusted with preserving the Kabbalah. Now, in the Jewish tradition, you supposedly have to be 40 years old and have to be a man, although those rules have somewhat been leaned in recent times. You have had to master the Torah, so you have to be well steeped in the Judaic religion before you are allowed to study the Kabbalah. Now, why did the Jewish religion do that with the Kabbalah? Because, folks, the Kabbalah inherently has enormous power. The study of the Kabbalah ultimately teaches you how to work with energy, how to understand what it is, how to recognize it in the world around you, how to manipulate it, how to maneuver it, how to use it for creation. So the Kabbalah is an exceedingly powerful system. Many people, most of them Jewish, spend their entire lives studying the Kabbalah. Very, very, very few master it. There are stories of someone opening the door to King Solomon's office, if you will, and he's sitting there with several other leaders in the community, all Kabbalists, and they're floating 3 feet above the floor while they hold their meeting. I don't know if that's true, but it certainly could be. The Kabbalah is a pathway to higher consciousness. It's a pathway to all kinds of higher learning. And it teaches you to open so many things, so many facets within yourself, that I've got to say anything is possible to a true Kabbalist. Now, at this point, I want to make it clear, you do not have to be Jewish to study the Kabbalah. You do not have to be Jewish to become a Kabbalist. The study of the Kabbalah in today's world is open to everyone. Way back in the early 1920s, a woman called Dion Fortune wrote what is one of the first mystical tradition Kabbalah books. It's called The Mystical Kabbalah. You can look it up online. You can purchase it. It's a great little book. And she introduced, with that book, the Kabbalah to the entire Western world, to those of us who are not Jewish, who do not follow the Torah or the principles of Judaism. She opened the Kabbalah to Western mysticism. Originally, let me show you this diagram. Way back when the Jews first exited Egypt and were traveling through the sands of the Middle East, the Kabbalah was an oral tradition. There were no books written about it. It was drawn as 10 circles. They called these Sephiroth, Sephiroh.
Sandy,
Lines, yes?
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. We are not seeing your screen if we are supposed to be.
Yeah, you're supposed to be seeing my screen. Let's see if I can get it up there. Okay. I don't know why it stopped sharing itself. Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mercury. Yes, Shannon is saying Mercury retrograde's been striking all day, but I'm safe because I have Elisa. Thank you. So back to what I was saying. In the earliest time, the Kabbalah was a line drawing, drawn with a stick in the sand of the desert. And it would be composed of 10 circles, or they called them Sephiroth, and I'll repeat that spelling, Sephiroh, and the lines that joined them were called paths, Paths. Some of you have heard the term the 32 paths of wisdom. Well, if you count these lines, these paths, there are 22 of them. And if you count the Sephiroth, or circles, there are 10 of those. So when you add them together, you get 32. So the term the 32 paths of wisdom is a direct reference to the Kabbalah. We read about that pretty frequently. So just what were sons passing, or fathers passing to sons, or rabbis passing to senior students of the Torah, who were 40 plus years of age and male back then? What were they passing along? What was this extremely secret tradition that was known as the Kabbalah? Incidentally, I spell it Kabbala, but Dion Fortune spelled it Qabbala, and I've seen many other spellings, Quabala. I've seen it spelled Cabala. Guess what? I don't honestly think it matters what spelling is used. We all know it's the Kabbalah. Likewise, we're not sure what any of the names or words utilized to talk about these Sephiroth or paths, or even the name Kabbalah, how they're actually pronounced. Traditionally, they're all Hebrew. All the words that we'll be using are Hebrew. The problem is that Hebrew is one of what we call the lost languages. Hebrew, you see, from the times that the Jews left Egypt, was not spoken. So after World War II, when Israel was awarded to the Jewish people, the way they determined how to pronounce Hebrew was to go into the surrounding desert tribes and look for similar pronunciations, and they arrived at the current pronunciation for Hebrew. But who's to say that's the real pronunciation? So folks, give yourself permission. If you're not Jewish and you don't speak Hebrew, give yourself permission to pronounce these words however you're able to pronounce them. Again, I don't think the powers that be are going to be disturbed by that. Now, that's an interesting concept because there are only two surviving original languages on planet Earth. One of them is Hebrew, and that's only surviving in writing. We don't know the true original pronunciation. The other language is Sanskrit, which comes out of India and Tibet. And Sanskrit today is still spoken, just as it's still written. And the reason Sanskrit is called a sacred language, just as Hebrew is a sacred written language, is because in Sanskrit, the spoken word is the thing. So if you utter the word, you're literally embodying the thing. Now in Hebrew, it's no longer spoken. We can't claim that. What we can say is if you write it, it's the thing. Okay? I hope you got that intonation there. They are called original languages. They're called the powerful languages. They're called the languages that are the language of the universe. So onward we go. Let's take a deeper look at this 32 paths of wisdom line drawing and break it down a little bit. If we start at the top, we could look at this area above, right above where it says divine self, which we call the sphere itself is called Kether. Well, above it, there's this nothingness, and I didn't write it in, but in a Hebrew text or a Jewish Kabbala text, you might see it being called the Ein, which is one plane, Soph, S-O-P-H, another plane, or, and I think that's U-R, another plane of existence. And what the Ein Sof Or is like a whisper that was existing in space long before the first sense of physicality ever came to this universe that we live in. In a book that Diane Fortune wrote in the late 1920s, she described the Ein Sof Or as what was the predetermining forces at work before Kether awakened. She defined it as space was moving. So if you can imagine space moving, that's the Ein Sof Or. It's this emptiness up here. And then Kether happens, divine self. And the way I have best heard Kether described as the universe itself saying, oh, you know when you first wake up from a deep sleep and it takes you half a moment before you even recognize you're awake? And then the light bulb goes off? Oh, Kether's been defined as that first moment of self-realization. Oh, awareness. Oh. It's also been defined as the Big Bang, if you happen to be a physicist. Oh, I love the concepts here because right up here in the top of the Tree of Life, which is another name for the 32 Paths of Wisdom and the Kabbalah, you see this triangle, this upward pointed triangle. The three top sephiro, or circles, joined by the triangle, the triangular paths. That's called the supernal triad. Check out every religion on this planet. Every single one of them has a triad. If you're Christian, it's God, the Father, and Son. Some Christian sects, God, the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ. Every single one of the mythologies has the king of the gods, the queen of the gods, the sun. All of them have a triangle, a supernal triad. Now, how does that triad happen? It begins with this moment of awakening of the universe. And after you wake up, what do? You generally take some form of action. You roll over, you look at the clock, or you put your feet on the floor, you hug your partner, you take some form of action. Action is a generative masculine force. With that first action, Hokmah, the father of all, is formed. This is divine force. Well, guess what? When divine force, when that action is taken, the initial energy that was Kether drops to the feminine mother of all position, divine form. So that doesn't go away. That's eternal. That's what's left. It drops to be the equal and opposite, force and form. Form is feminine, force masculine. Force being a generative action, form being a receptive energy, male and female. Kether is neither. It's both male and female. There is no differentiation in Kether. Differentiation, it happens with the first action, force. Now you'll notice that behind this, there's an invisible Sephiro. That invisible Sephiro, which exists in something called the abyss, is called Daath, D-A-A-T-H. Usually you don't learn about that until you're more aware and more learned in Kabbalistic studies. But it's been said that Daath is the fallen angel, and that angel has fallen all the way down to be right here on the physical plane at the bottom of the tree. Why did I tell you that now? Because I know everybody was looking at that. What is that? I don't know. It's the fallen angel. You could look at that as the child of this initial male and female force. You could look at that as the male force breaking away, the female force breaking away to become form, and then what's left of Kether falling to become Malkuth, the physical plane. So many different ways of looking at this. And one of the secrets of the Kabbalah is they are not defined. There aren't rules. You're supposed to find it for yourself. The Kabbalah is a roadmap to enlightenment. You'll see those words used to define the Kabbalah as two. It's a roadmap to higher consciousness. It's a roadmap defining your own personal evolution, defining the way energy becomes matter, and when we reverse the flow, matter becomes energy. The Kabbalah trains you to manifest anything that you choose, including your own higher consciousness, your own awakening. So let's go down again. The energy moves from the Divine Mother across the tree. You see there's a spiral. You can't really see it here because this is flat. It's not showing the motion. But this whole thing is three-dimensional. And it's in motion and it spins. So the energy is going to cross the tree. And when it crosses the tree, it becomes the very first action that sets in motion physicality. See, everything up here in the supernal triad is pure energy. The Jewish Kabbalists believe that you must be dead to be able to access this. People in physical form can't, they say. I disagree. I think it's very difficult, but I think when we really learn to leave the body through various forms of astral traveling, we can access these higher consciousnesses. Although, as a beginner, it's unlikely. As an experienced practitioner, it's likely. So after we cross the tree into Chesed, known as memory, why memory? Because it's bringing the memory of the divine purpose in the supernal triad into the potential for physicality. You'll notice this says the plane of higher consciousness. Chesed is the universe's attempt to recreate what the divine intended. Putting that into personal terms, If you have an idea, you have for example, a business you want to get started. When you're laying the concept of the business, it's up here in the supernal triad. When you start to put pen to paper, you're now down here in Kesed. It's no longer an idea, it's actually beginning to be formed. From Kesed, we cross the tree to Gevurah. This B is pronounced like a B, that much of Hebrew I know. Gevurah. And Gevurah is volition. So here's a feminine sephira that takes action. I think of Gevurah like the super Virgo if you're an astrologer. And what Gevurah's job is to do is to pare away and get rid of everything that isn't going to work as it moves down to the physical plane. So you see, Kesed did its absolute best to put down on paper, to draw a roadmap, to get a house plan, to get a business plan as exact as it possibly could to mirror every single bit of what the supernal triad wanted. But Gevurah takes that pencil and says, no, you can't have this, you can't have that. The zoning laws won't let you do this, you can't do that. You need to move this over here and that over there. So Gevurah's action is to pare away what doesn't work and find a way to make those things work which are feasible in order that this can reach the physical plane as intact a mirror of the original purpose as can be found. When that paring away is done, the energy flows into Tifereth, the pH is pronounced as an F, which equates on the tree of life to your higher self. This is your own first awakening, as your own higher self saying, wow, I can make this happen. So the higher self is part of a plane of higher consciousness, and it is that perfected manifestation which is as close a reflection to Kether as we can get on this lower plane. And it's significant that if you fold the supernal triad over onto the triangle below it, which is the plane of higher consciousness, it matches. It's a reflection. Now, it's not a perfect reflection, but it's a reflection. Now, where does the energy go? Again, the higher self takes action. Tifereth takes action. And the first thing that happens is that action is feeling perception. We call that netzach, the energy of fire. Netzach. Pure feeling. Fire energy is pure feeling. Pure intuition. And that energy will flow across the street, the street, yes, I guess it is a street. It's a roadmap. That's a street. That energy is going to flow across to Pod, which is your water sephiro, and this is where mind takes form, your physical mind. This is also the plane that we know of as the upper astral. Still not physical, but we are able to feel this when we feel an aura. Some of us can see astral forms. From Pod, the energy flows down to Yesod, the plane of air. These are all individual planes. Yesod is the plane of emotions. It's your vital soul, and it's the element of air. That's also known as the lower astral. It is this area in the universe where we are right now combating, because it is this area where all drama occurs, when the mind and the emotions kind of get hold and create things that often don't even exist. So this area is somewhat difficult to find your roadmap through. One of the big things we're going to be doing in our pathworking is learning how to navigate and negotiate the lower astral and the upper astral and find our way back to the higher self. Now, where does the energy go after it finally gathers together all of these things and is forming the physical plane, a distant reflection of the divine purpose? It finally on the bottom ends up in Malkuth. Folks, this is how energy becomes matter. In a way, it's like playing that old-fashioned game of musical chairs. Or better still, remember when we used to whisper a sentence and the next person whispered a sentence and the next person whispered a sentence and the next one whispered a sentence? We called that one telephone. Remember when we got to the very last person, we repeated the sentence and we all laughed? Well, that's what's happening here. Here's the original concept, and here's what manifests. Folks, we're all doing our best. We are all imperfect reflections. Now, what we do in our path working is we start here in the physical body, the physical world, and we reverse the process. We start here in the physical world, and we move the energy up and learn to navigate the lower astral. We learn about that part of our being. Then we move the energy up to the upper astral. We learn about the manifestations of our mind and how the mental energies work and how to control them and get a handle on them and how to get a handle on our feeling and perception. Then we raise the energy up to the higher self. From there, we're totally in the spiritual plane. We raise the energy up to the level of Gevura, then Kesed. Then we cross the abyss, and we actually do experience divinity in Bina and in Hokmah and in Kether. And we do all this, by the way, without really referencing God, because this isn't about God in any religious sense at all. It's about pure physics. It's about how energy becomes matter, how matter raises its vibration to higher and higher and less dense levels to embodiment of the spirit. Let's move on. One of the beautiful things about the Kabbalah is that it embodies everything that exists. Way back when I first began studying it myself, I was a student of astrology, of numerology, of feng shui, of tarot, magic, and a dozen more different metaphysical traditions, as well as many other things. And I knew there was a common thread because I could find common points in all of these different tools and all of these different systems. But I couldn't find the one place that they all came together. And my guides told me to go study the Kabbalah. So I did. Mostly I studied it on the other planes. I also read books. There wasn't a lot out there. That was back in the 1970s, but I read whatever I could find. And lo and behold, I discovered, also studying with various teachers and some rabbis, that if it physically exists, it has a place on this roadmap. And let me tell you, that gave me a sense of completeness. Yes, this, if it exists, whether it's a mythological figure, whether it's math, whether it's an attorney, or whether it's somebody doing their laundry, you name it, the person, the profession, the place, the circumstance, the construct, the language, if it exists, stones, crystals, herbs, if it exists, there's a place for it here on this very simple roadmap. Are you beginning to understand how complex this very simple drawing of 10 circles and 22 lines in the desert sands was, as it was passed down, this incredible knowledge from father to son, from rabbi to student? Pretty amazing. Let me show you how it equates to numerology. That's one of the simplest ways that we can actually make use of the Kabbalah. Here are the 10 step row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And here are the 22 paths. You can count them yourselves. Okay. Well, I can show you very simply how to figure out your life path. And guess what? When I show you how to figure out your life path in numerology, your life path will show you what your primary path on the tree of life is. For example, my life path is a 7, so Netzach and everything having to do with Netzach is very important to me. We know Netzach talks about intuition and pure feeling. Well, guess what? By profession, I'm a psychic channel. There's your intuition. Not everybody who's a 7 has that, but everybody who has a 7 life path definitely needs a lot of time alone and has a whole lot of intuition going on and feels on a very deep level and has to pay attention to those feelings, those perceptions. Now, in my case, that 7 is derived from a 25. And over here is the 25. Okay, right? This little path that goes from the 9th sefer, which is Yesod, to the 6th sefer, which is Tikvah. You can look back and you'll see that. So this little path here, this is my life. Taking my lower self and all the drama of Yesod, emotion, the sphere of emotion, and raising it to the level of the higher self. It's much deeper than that. That's a simplistic look at it. But when I travel the paths on the tree of life, I always pay special attention to path 25 and how it affects me whenever I travel it, because that tells me a whole lot about what's going on in my world, in my life right now. So let's take a look at how you figure out your own life path. A lot of you already know that, but for those of you who don't, to figure out your life path, all you need to do is to add your birth date together as a simple math problem. So you take your year reduced to a single digit, and then your month reduced to a single digit, and your day reduced to a single digit. So using myself again as an example, I was born June 20th, 1952. So the year is 1 plus 9, that's 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Then I reduce that again. 1 plus 7 is 8. The month is 6, so that gives us a 14. The day is 2, which gives us a 16. And then reduce that to a single digit. 1 plus 6 equals 7. So that's my life path. Now you see where I got my life path from. So all you need to do to figure out your own life path is set up this simple math problem, and you will know your own life path. Once you know your own life path, go back to this mathematical diagram and take a look. You should have 2 numbers. You should have like a 24 and then a 6. Or perhaps you'll have a 16 and then a 7. So guess what? Netzach doesn't always come out of a 25. It sometimes comes out of a 16. Now, I think I heard a couple of people say, well, what happens if your life path came out to an 11 or 12? Or it came out to an 8 or 9? Okay? Just look at the numbers behind it, and that's going to tell you what it is reduced from. So you will all have 2 numbers that reduce to a single 1-digit number. Okay, let's take a look ahead. One of the other things I love about the Kabbalah is that it directly relates to your own physical body. This is very important in our path working, because as we travel the paths, which will be guided visualizations set to music, and we're literally watching a movie behind our eyes, so your eyes will be closed, and you're experiencing this guided visualization. As we go through these visualizations, each one of these chakras gets awakened. Malkuth is your root center. You see the tree of life here. Malkuth is the root center. Yesod, your 9, is the sacral center. 8, 7, and 8 together. This is Netzach and Hod together are the solar plexus. Tifereth is the heart. Kesed and Gevurah together are the throat. Hokmah and Bina together are the third eye. And finally, the crown is Kether. Now, why are some of them 2 for one of these, for one chakra? A lot of you are aware that each chakra or psychic energy center corresponds to one of the body's ductless glands. That's why they're so powerful. Those ductless glands release hormones directly into your bloodstream. So they have a whole lot to do with your consciousness, with your physical health, your emotional stability. They're incredibly powerful and important. Well, it takes, regarding the solar plexus, 2 glands, the adrenals and the supraadrenals. You see, Malkuth is one set of glands, the gonads. The sacral center is one set of glands, the spleen. But the solar plexus is 2, the adrenals and the supraadrenals. The heart connects to the thymus, one gland. The throat connects to the thyroid and the parathyroid, 2 glands. The third eye connects to the pineal and the pituitary, 2 glands. And the crown is actually above the head, does not connect to a physical gland. It, however, connects directly to both. Remember the supernal triad, the pineal and the pituitary, and therefore can control every other gland, all of the hormones. Now, as we move down again, I love this principle. It's going to be interesting to a lot of you. As you raise something called Kundalini, some of you don't know that word. When the spirit incarnates, excess energy, supposedly, is locked up in the base of the spine. As we release the energy that's in the base of the spine, if it's released in a force that raises Kundalini, that energy goes up the center of the spine, which is known as the Sushumna, and it can raise the consciousness up in an instant. Most people, however, are not fully awakened. So in the typical person, the energy moves back and forth between the 2 pillars. Well, one side is the Pingala, known as mercy. The other side is the Ida, these are Sanskrit words, Ida, Sushumna, and Pingala, known as severity. So in the person in whom Kundalini has been awakened and enlightenment has occurred, and there are very few of those people, that would be a guru in India, a Sai Baba type of individual, someone on that level, a Jesus Christ, okay, someone who is awakened. The Kundalini is totally awakened, and that person walks that middle pillar all of the time. In most of us, we flow back and forth. We do the seesaw. We experience life in a reactive way when we're on this pillar of severity. We experience life in a generative way when we feel like we're more in control, when we're on the pillar of mercy. But for most of us, we travel back and forth. We slide back and forth, and we only pass through this middle pillar. Now, is the middle pillar necessarily a better pillar than the other 2? No. If you travel the middle pillar, as maybe a priest or a nun might do, striving for that total balance, or a yogi. You might get to the goal faster, but you would have missed all the sights along the way. You would have missed a tremendous amount of growth opportunity. So most of us in some lifetimes move back and forth between the poles, and others we stay on the middle pillar. There isn't a better or a worse. There's only different. And that's one of the things that the Kabbalah teaches us. No betters, no worses, no right or wrong decisions, no left or right turns, just different experiences. And they're all okay. And it's through the path working that we get to experience. Let's go back up for a minute. Actually, we can do this from down here. All of the paths. Actually, I'm going to show you the paths themselves so you remember it. Our Sephiroth and our paths. It's through walking these paths that we come to understand the Sephiroth. Each Sephiroth is a different type of God consciousness. And those consciousnesses are all contained within us. We all have all of those types of God consciousnesses within us. We understand the God consciousness by traveling the paths that lead into and out of each one of those Sephiroth, each one of those Sephiroths. That's how we come to understand ourselves and how we come to understand the living universe around us. One of the things that I kind of enjoy doing, we can relate the Kabbalah to mythology. Kether is known as the source of all. The Hebrew name in the Bible for Kether is Yahweh. That's God of all. The Father of all is known as Yah. Again, the Bible, when we're talking about not the source, but God, we're calling that Yah. And the mother of all will be Jehovah Elohim. We don't encounter somebody like Jupiter, king of the gods, or Zeus, until we get down to Kesed. That would be the Hebrew name in the Bible of El. And the god of war, I think it's interesting, it's a feminine Sephiroth. The god of war is feminine. Why? Because it's on the pillar that is the pillar of form. War is about form, isn't it? And that's known in the Hebrew words Elohim Gibor. In mythology, we would have Athena, or Helen, or I can't remember offhand the other mythological names, but Athena is good enough, it gets the point across. If you wanted to equate this to a male energy, it would be the god Mars, god of war. And that leads me to another concept. Anytime energy is pushing out, it's exerting force, it's taking action, it's acting in a male way. Anytime energy is coming in, anytime it's being sucked in or received, it's acting in a female way. So you see, if we are traveling up the tree, from the bottom up, this is a feminine Sephiroth, Gevora. It's a goddess of war because it's receiving the energy. But when we push the energy further up the tree on the other side, when we push it up towards Bina, this is a Mars energy. It's now a masculine force. So I know I'm confusing you. I told you I was going to give you a lot to think about all at once. Each one of these Sephiroth can be both male and female depending on how it's using its energy. Just like you can be both male and female depending on how you are using your energy. Interesting concepts, all here on the Kabbalah. When we come down to, from Devorah to Tiferet, this is the sacrifice god. And every religion has one. Jesus Christ on the cross. Buddha, who had to sacrifice himself. Krishna, all sacrificed. The Hebrew name, Jehovah Aloha Badath, right out of the Bible. Whether it's a Christian Bible or a Hebrew Bible, Jewish Bible, doesn't matter. Same name, Jehovah Aloha Badath. The energy goes then down to Netzach, Sephirah of love and nature goddesses. The Hebrew name is Jehovah Sabaoth. The goddess name could be Aphrodite, or the goddess that Artemis, the one I love her, the huntress, nature goddesses. Across the tree, we have the god or goddess of wisdom, Elohim Sabaoth. Same second part. First name is different, Elohim. This could be Athena, goddess of wisdom. It could be Hermes, god of wisdom, depending on whether it's being generative, masculine, or receptive, feminine. Then the energy travels to Yesod, where we see it reflected as the moon goddess. In the Bible, this is Shaddai El Chai. In mythology, this could be Selena or any moon goddess. Then the energy travels down to the earth mother, Adonai Malek. That could be Demeter or any earth energy. So you see, just as we can equate the Sephirah to things, languages, systems, we can also equate them to mythologies or to religion. If we were looking at something like government or your business, this could be in a corporation. This could be the corporate board, the head of the corporation, the title on the door of the corporation. This could be the person who is the head of the board. This could be the person who actually takes all the work and distributes it. So you can see, you can take anything in life and break it down into this system. It's a roadmap to help you to understand where you are at any point in your world. I'm not going to go into this part as much in depth, but we can equate to colors, to planets, like Uranus for Kether, or all zodiac signs. The paths can equate to energies, air and fire, or to elements. For example, the path that leads from Tiferet to Chokmah is a path that is an Aries path, and it's a fire energy. Incidentally, I should take this moment to tell you that when you're traveling the paths of the Tree of Life with me, we're not going to go over a lot of this stuff. It's an experiential journey. We'll have one class where we go into these things and I redo them. I'm not going to go into them with great depth. We're going to go into them enough so that you know where to find things, so that you understand the lay of the land. And then we're going to dive into experiencing the pathworking, to experiencing the paths from the inside out. In pathworking, the Kabbalah, we experience the energy as opposed to learning it with our brain. The first lesson will go over some of the things I'm talking about this evening, maybe with a little bit more depth. And what that will do is to give your mind enough to hold on to, and you'll have it in writing so you can look back at it. You can re-listen to it. It'll be in a library that you have to go back and review. But the paths themselves, you're going to experience. You're going to live them. You're going to learn what it feels like to be on the 32nd path that joins Malkuth to Yesod. You're going to experience it. And from my personal experience, nothing gives you a better understanding and completes your insight better than direct experience. We can't ever fully experience all of the Sephirah and all of the paths, but we can gain an enormous amount of insight. It equates to the tarot. Here I put the aces. By the way, these are not Sandy's inventions. These are all research, this information. Okay. The kings are Chokmah, Queens are Bina, fours are Kesed, and so forth. Each one of the Sephirot has its own area on the minor arcana. And you'll note that the major arcana are all of the paths. Now, something interesting about the path working. Every week when you embark upon a new path, you're going to pick out a tarot card. For example, when we start doing path 32, you'll pick out the world of your tarot deck if you have one. If you don't have a tarot deck, you'll just write the world on a piece of paper. And you're going to stick that piece of paper under your pillow with that card under your pillow and sleep with it while we're on that path. And that's also going to talk to you and give you insight into that path. So we're actually going to use the tarot cards as a tool while we travel the path, while we travel the Kabbala, pathways, roadmap to higher consciousness. Now we have other correspondences as well. I've got the Sephirot or spheres listed here. Each one of those spheres corresponds to a musical note. So if you have a favorite note, think about what your favorite note is. I know mine is usually A. Guess what? A corresponds to Kesed, sphere 4. So that sphere, which is the sphere where you get to meet your guides, folks, that sphere is very, very important in Sandy's world. And I happen to love harp music, and I love the sound of waves. So do you have a favorite sound, something you return to again and again? That's going to give you some insight into a part of the tree of life that's going to be very important to you. We also have, here are the sphere names that I gave you before, and here are the divine names that I also gave you before. Well, each one of those spheres has an archangel attached to it. So if you know your guide, is one of your guides an archangel? Maybe that will give you an idea as to which Sephirot is most important to you. Also, we are going to meet these archangels in our path working. In fact, we're going to come to understand the choir of angels and what they are and how they work and how important they are. Because each Sephirot also has a choir of angels. Many, 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 many energetic beings. Now, I'm going to say something that sounds totally wacky and way out until you have studied the Kabbalah. All of these choir of angels have consciousness. You're going to find that the choir of angels of each Sephirot is literally the energy that holds the plane of that Sephirot in place. Think of them as little pillars, little energy flows. But each one of them has consciousness. What I'm telling you is, through your study of the Kabbalah, you're slowly going to realize that the entire universe has consciousness. There's nothing in the universe that doesn't have some form of consciousness. That's something to chew on. And certainly the archangels are the head. They're the beings, they're the conscious beings that think of them as the boss of the choir of angels that holds that plane together. Without these beings, folks, you don't have a universe. It doesn't exist. Interesting, huh? Without these consciousnesses, each one of them, we don't have archangels and we don't have choirs of angels. The universe ceases to exist. The universe is conscious. Everything in it is conscious to different degrees. Awareness isn't always the same, but it's always there on some level. If you want to experience the Kabbala Pathworking, and I see your names, and I know that a lot of you are already registered, but not everybody is. If you want to experience the Kabbala Pathworking, join our small intimate group. We'll be a small group of people working together for the next 6 months. This class will start July 7th and move through, I think it's about the second week of December. We're going to get to know one another very well. We will be studying in a group and yet individually experience everything that we learn and grow into. And we'll be there to support each other. And I will be there as your guide, not your teacher, not in this class. I'm your guide. All of the guided meditations are accessible online in your own personal Forever library, along with support tools, mandalas, and my book, Kabbala Pathworking, in its digital format. We're going to meet online weekly to share our experience and our insights with the group, and that'll be under my direct guidance. And we're going to get a chance to share an active, private community where we can interchange our experience, our ideas, our dreams, actual dreams. Our dream life is going to become really amazing here. And also your mandalas, because every week, every time we begin a new path, we're going to have a mandala to draw and to color. And that itself has a lot of meaning and gives us a lot of insight into what we're going to learn in the pathworking. So we'll have a chance to post them on the community and talk about them as well. Here are your requirements. In order to do the Kabbala class, you do need to have a computer equipped with a webcam, which obviously all of you do, or most of you. It does need a webcam, though. You need to be able to connect to high-speed internet in order to get the best experience. You need a hands-free headset to eliminate audio feedback. And what I often do for people like myself who don't use the headset, if you get feedback, I'll just mute you if there's a lot of sound and unmute you just to say what you have to do, and then they mute you. We work with it. But if you can have a headset, that works best. Okay, for more information, go here, https://www.sandyanastasi.com/Kabbala free lesson, LESSON. And when you click that link, not only is it going to put you into a funnel that's going to give you a lot more information, it's going to bring you pages every couple of days that will give you more information on what the class is all about. It's also going to give you the first lesson of the class, similar to this, only more in-depth for free. And that class also has a free mini path. Now we'll be doing that mini path the first day that we meet as well, but this kind of gives you a jump on it. It's a mini path set to music where you're going to get to experience the 4 elements. Those of you who have never experienced pathworking set to music, you're going to love it. It's worth clicking on this link just so that you get that mini class and get to experience it. And it will also give you a review of all the things we've covered tonight. The classes begin on July 7th. And now what I'm going to do is to open us up to questions. And so anybody who would like to ask a question, dive in, and I will do my very best to answer that question until such time as we actually begin the class. And you can also put, I should say this, you can also put your questions into the chat room, and I'll be glad to answer them there too. I'll read them out and be able to answer them. Does anybody have a question, or was I either so clear you have none, or was I so muddy that you can't formulate one? I get the impression that everybody is waiting for somebody else to ask a question. So let me ask Lisa. Lisa, if you were one of our silent people on this forum, what question would you be asking?
Okay, I really wouldn't be asking a question because I'm a Libra. I'd be sitting back waiting for somebody else.
Well, maybe
but what I would like to say while they're thinking about what they would like to ask you, because I've been through this experience now 15 times. I've taken the Kabbala. And I can promise you that this is a fun, exciting class. One of the main things that you have to do in this class is close your eyes and listen to a guided meditation. And that will take you to a place you have never been before. And then we get the opportunity to talk about that in Sandy's class every week. And you also get to color. I mean, she's giving you permission as an adult to color, and it's okay to do it. Nobody's going to think you're weird. So every week, if you want to, people color the mandala. And we put those up on the community that Sandy started for everybody. In this class, I can honestly say, out of all of your classes, Sandy, I think we have more interaction on the community per student because everybody shares their experiences, because we're all on this path together. So you're going to find out things about yourself during the week that you had no idea that you could do, that you could think, that you could feel, that you could see. It's just, you know, I want people to get excited because I'm excited about it. I can't wait to get started again. So anyway, no question, but that's my comment on the class. You're going to find a higher consciousness that you didn't even know that you had if you take this Kabbala class. It's just a great path to be on.
Thank you, Lisa. That was really good. That was great. Good overview. And I want to add a couple of things to that because you did, you kind of stimulated me. People should be thinking, well, what's entailed? You know, what kind of work is required with this class? There's not really any work required other than, well, let me tell you how little work is required. What I want you to be doing is that on Sunday each week, you get up in the morning and you color your mandala for this week's path. And sometime during the day or evening, you lie down and you put your recorder on or your music on the path, and you listen to the path. And maybe you fall asleep, maybe you don't, but you just listen to it. And when you wake up, you write down your immediate response. How you felt, what you thought, did you like it or not like it? Did it make you feel good or bad? And then during the week, you have a little journal. Every day, fill in how I felt, any major important things that might have happened. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have our class. All the classes meet Wednesday. And on Wednesday's like the peak, you see. And on Wednesday, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about what we've been experiencing on the new path since Sunday. But we're also going to look back to the previous week because we would have finished the previous path on Sunday. So we're going to talk about that previous one too. And then we're going to know that from that peak on Wednesday, it's going to gradually dissipate and move into the next path. So the path, the strength and the energy of the path gets a little less, until on Sunday we begin our next new path. And all that time we're doing some recording in our journal. Now, in an ideal world, that's all that's required of you. Coloring your mandala, putting your tarot card under your pillow. If you have a stone, you can hold the stone in your hand when you do your meditation. And I'll be telling you what all the correspondences to stones and crystals are. Some people like to use them. Same thing with color. If you really want to get into it, you might wear the particular color while you're doing your path. But supposing you're not the all-in kind of person, and you just sort of want to go along for the ride. Now, I'm not encouraging this because I do believe that if you're giving 100%, you get 100%. So those of you who put all the energy in and do everything are going to get more out of it. However, supposing you do nothing, you just join the class and maybe every 3 or 4 weeks you come to a class, but the rest of the time you just go along for the ride. And in most classes, that would mean you get nothing out of the class, right? It doesn't work that way with Kabbala. The Kabbala sets up an energy field that is so powerful it carries everyone that's in it, past, present, and even future, along with it. It'll even carry more family members that aren't taking the class along with it. So, for example, a few years back, I had a gal who, in the middle of this class, had to miss a month because she was in the Australian outback where there was no internet. And she said, "Can I do it, Sandy?" I said, "Oh, sure. When you come back, tell us about it." And when she came back, every single week, not only had she been on the path with us, but her experiences in the outback actually mirrored the experiences on the path more directly than if she had physically been doing the classes with us. So what I'm saying is, once you join this class, you don't get away. You're going to do the class whether you do the meditations or not. Isn't that wonderful? So years back, I asked my guides, give me a method of attaining higher consciousness that requires minimal work that anybody can do and everybody can enjoy. And they gave me the Kabbala Pathworking. And it's with great joy myself that I share it with you. So in the chat room, while I've been talking and Lisa's been talking, we did have a couple of things coming out here. Katerina says, no questions for me. I can't wait to get started. And she says the Kabbalah meditations are great. Marianne says, thanks for the introduction. And Mary Lou says, I am just taking all of this in. I'm not on the fence. I'm just breathing this in. Somehow there's a message because the class begins on my grandma's birthday. So cool. So she says, I'm not sure what the message is. And Lisa chimes in and says, that's really cool. And then Lisa says, we get to color. We can wear a certain color during the week. We can use crystals and stones. We can place a tarot card under our pillow each week, all if you want to, but you don't have to, because you will still walk the paths with all of the other path workers, regardless of how much you do or don't put in. And we do record each path working class, so if you have to miss any, no worries, you're still on the path with everyone, and we are going to send it to you with the recording. So not only do you have your library that has your recording in it, you have the book, you also have a full recording of the original class. So you have our discussion, which points out all the things that are important and kind of reviews each path in depth. And you will also have the recording of your own class that comes to you separately that you can download and store permanently on your computer. The library with all of the support information is yours forever. It never goes away. And I think that's about it. Lisa, can you think of anything else that we need to cover for people this evening? Oh, David.
Not all, but I'm always available if they want to email me with any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Did you hear that, folks? Lisa's available with any questions, and her email is lisasainc@aol.com. And I'll finish this up. I think David's comment is absolutely wonderful. He says, I've done this years ago using the CDs. My God, David, that was a long time ago. CDs. He's laughing. But he's never done it live or live online. And he said it sounds so magical. David, it is. This class is magical. And please, again, I'm going to ask you, do sign up, because when you hit this, you can't just hit a button here. I wish I had a button. But when you type this into your browser, you can copy and paste it if you take a snapshot of it. Copy and paste https://www.sandyanastasi.com/Kabbala free lesson. When you click on that, it's going to put you into a little funnel that's going to download to you every couple of days information on the class. You're going to hear other people's testimonials. You're going to find out more about what the class has done for other people, more about what you can learn in the class. So it gives you more information. It's also going to give you an in-depth version of tonight's class. More importantly, it's going to give you our intro path. And it's all set to music, and it's beautiful, and it's a great experience. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone. And I want to thank you so much for being here with me this evening. I am really, really looking forward to exploring the Kabbalah through path working with you this summer. I'll see you all on July 7th. Good night.